Have you ever heard the whispers of the jungle? The stories that are passed down from one generation to the next, carried on the wind through ancient trees? Today, I want to take you on a journey to the high mountains of Laos, to a time when the line between the human world and the wild was thin and often terrifying. This is a story that has been told for countless years, a chilling reminder of the power of nature. Long, long ago, nestled among the soaring peaks of Laos, there was a small, secluded village. Life here was simple and deeply connected to the earth. The villagers were hard-working people, surviving by farming the land and raising livestock. Their terraced fields were carved into the mountainside, right up against the edge of a dense, mysterious jungle. This wasn't just any forest. It was a realm of its own, a labyrinth of towering trees, tangled vines, and wild plants that grew with untamed abandon. This jungle was teeming with life. It was the home of wild pigs, graceful deer, and agile mountain goats, but it was also the domain of a far more formidable creature, the great tiger. The villagers knew the tigers were there. They would hear their distant roars at night, a sound that would send a shiver down their spines, but attacks were rare. The animals usually kept to the deep woods, and the people kept to their fields. There was an unspoken understanding, a fragile balance between them. One fateful day, that balance was shattered forever. The harvest season was in full swing, and the village was buzzing with activity. A group of young women and mothers set out early in the morning, their baskets ready. Their task was to gather wild greens and cut fresh grass for the family pigs. They walked to the fields bordering the jungle, their laughter and chatter filling the crisp mountain air. The sun climbed higher, warming the earth, and the sounds of the forest became a familiar backdrop to their work, the chirping of birds, the buzzing of insects, and the distant calls of unknown creatures. They worked for hours, lost in their task, moving closer and closer to the jungle's edge. Noon approached, and the heat became more intense. Suddenly, a sound cut through the air, different from the usual forest symphony. It was a sharp rustling in the dense bushes just beyond the field. Everyone froze. They slowly turned their heads, their eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. What they saw next would be seared into their memories for the rest of their lives. Emerging from the undergrowth was a tiger, but this was no ordinary tiger. It was colossal, its muscular body as large as a horse, its stripes like dark, jagged shadows. Its fur seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, and its eyes shone with a terrifying, intelligent light. It stood there for a moment, completely still, fixing its intense gaze directly on the group of people. For a heartbeat, there was absolute silence. Then pure panic erupted. The women screamed, a collective cry of wrought error that echoed across the mountainside. They dropped their baskets and sickles, turned and ran for their lives, scrambling out of the field in a desperate flight back toward the safety of the village. The tiger didn't hesitate. With a low, rumbling growl, it lunged forward, its powerful legs eating up the ground with terrifying speed. It was a blur of orange and black, a predator in its element. The villagers ran, but they were no match for its speed. In the chaos, the tiger targeted a young man who had been helping his mother dig potatoes, slightly separated from the main group. He cried out as the massive animal closed in on him, a short, desperate scream of pain and shock. The others heard it, but they were powerless. No one was strong or brave enough to face the beast. In a horrifying display of raw power, the tiger clamped its massive jaws around the young man's neck. He was lifted from the ground as if he weighed nothing, and the tiger turned, dragging him away, back into the dark embrace of the forest. The survivors didn't stop running until they stumbled, breathless and weeping, into the village. Their panicked cries immediately alerted everyone. The news spread like wildfire. A tiger had taken one of their own. Instantly, the village men sprang into action. Grief and rage fueled their courage. They grabbed whatever weapons they could find, old, muzzle-loading muskets passed down through families, sharp spears, and long, heavy knives. A hunting party was formed in minutes. They were a grim, determined procession, following the trail of terror. Back to the fields. The signs were horrifyingly clear, a path of trampled grass, scattered belongings, and a gruesome trail of blood leading directly into the wall of green jungle. They plunged into the forest, their hearts pounding in their chests, their senses on high alert. They called out the young man's name, their voices swallowed by the dense canopy. Above, they followed the bloody trail deeper and deeper into the wilderness. The forest grew darker, the trees thicker, blocking out the sun. The air became heavy and still, but the further they went, the fainter the trail became. It was clear that the tiger knew this terrain intimately. By the time they reached a clearing deep within the jungle, the trail had vanished completely. The tiger had dragged its victim into its domain, and he was gone, lost to the wild forever. Defeated and heartbroken, the men returned to the village as dusk began to fall. A heavy sorrow settled over the community. The joy of the harvest was gone, replaced by a deep and gnawing fear. From that day on, everything changed. The fields near that part of the jungle were abandoned. No one dared to work there again. The laughter of children playing near the forest edge fell silent. The jungle, once a source of life and sustenance, had become a place of death and dread. The village elders gathered to discuss the tragedy. They spoke in hushed, somber tones. This, they concluded, might not have been an ordinary animal. They believed it was a spirit tiger, a powerful, supernatural being that ruled over that stretch of land. It was a guardian of the forest, and it fed on any human who dared to trespass too close to its sacred territory. The abandoned fields were an offering, a sacrifice to appease the spirit and keep it from venturing into the village itself. The story of the tiger and the lost young man became a permanent part of the village's history. It was told to children and to their children's children. It served as a stark and powerful lesson. It was a reminder to always be cautious, to respect the boundaries of the wild, and to remember that in the ancient mountains of Laos, the tiger is never truly far away. It watches from the shadows, a silent, powerful guardian of a world that humans can never fully tame. Thank you so much for joining me for this ancient tale from the mountains of Laos. These stories connect us to the past and remind us of the powerful forces of nature. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more stories from around the world. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.